Hello, everyone, and welcome to From Tip to Tail, a podcast dedicated to animal welfare. This podcast is sponsored by Cuddly. Cuddly is the only crowdfunding platform built specifically for animal welfare organizations worldwide. I'm Bridget.
And I'm Sydney. We've spent years working with animal rescues and have seen such amazing innovation, strength, and heart.
Having this personal connection with rescuers has made us more informed, grateful, and inspired. We hope by giving you an inside look, you will be too. Today we're speaking with Save an Angel, whose mission is to help save the lives of dogs diagnosed with lymphoma by funding cutting-edge research and providing education, support, and access to state-of-the-art treatments that often cures. Save an Angel also rescues, networks, rehabilitates, rehomes, and relocates dogs saved from overcrowded shelters and those found abandoned on the street. Their goal is to help rescued dogs become part of loving families who will love them through all of life's challenges. So, let's get started. Hi, Jeremy. Hi, Kickie. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Great. We're going to have to include a video for this because Kikkie's holding Shrimp, the tiniest, most adorable little pup, and it's going to be very distracting, I think. So just to get things kind of kicked off, so how did you both get into rescue? I don't know who wants to start here.
The very first organization that I volunteered for was Save an Angel. I started volunteering about 10 years ago now. And so Save an Angel started out as a canine cancer organization. The namesake of the organization was a dog named Angel. And she was diagnosed with canine lymphoma. The founders of the organization, Christy and Johnny Sullins, set out on a fundraising campaign to save their dog. She was only about 5 or 6 years old. They knew that she had a long life to live, but that with lymphoma cancer left untreated, she was unfortunately passed away a lot earlier than they expected. So they set out doing research. They connected with veterinarians. And then with that, it kind of sparked a fundraising campaign. And with that, they started raising money through fundraising for Mardi Gras beads because they lived in New Orleans. And I lived there at the time and I was going to college. And so I just kind of got looped in and started helping sorting Mardi Gras beads. And from there, it's been 10 years.
That's such a big story you've done this before. I think that was so succinct, but that's amazing. What a great story. And such a nice decade to be involved in all that.
I moved to Austin, Texas from Katrina. I was a Katrina refugee. And then I got a job at a low-cost nonprofit spay-neuter clinic and helped them kind of grow that program. And then slowly, as I started doing my vet teching, we learned about medical fostering and special needs fostering. And so my family started taking in the hospice and special needs cases. And over time, I met Jeremy through that and started fostering for him. And so I've been fostering for him for over 10 years. I've gotten pulled a little bit more further into the organization and gotten to help head our spay-neuter nonprofit campaign that we're doing right now. We've opened low-cost spay-neuter clinic for people in the area of Bastrop County, Texas. And that started this year. Well, late last year in December, we did our pilot clinic. And then in January, it's just kind of built and built and built because the need was so great. And so rescue and spay neuter all kind of tied together. And we've been doing medical needs and special needs fostering for about 15 years now.
That's amazing. And I know you were telling us about all the special needs you have in your home right now. I love that you're, you don't just go to work every day. You live it all the time and you live and breathe these special needs little babies.
Taken a special place in my heart. And I think it started out as kind of a way of especially being a Katrina refugee, giving back to a community that really opened me with welcoming arms when I had nothing and no place for me and my dog to go. And she was the sole reason why I ended up moving to Austin because I had a friend here who said hey, you can bring your dog and you don't have to worry about if you have a place to stay. Whereas we had friends and family across the US willing to take me in, but they were all saying oh, the dog can't come. And so that was a pretty life-altering decision to move just because of her. But at the same time, to me, she was family and she wasn't just a dog. But it's led to this amazing path that I didn't expect to be going down when I was 19 when I started, but it's been awesome. And then, of course, being able to meet Jeremy and then get involved in Save an Angel has been amazing. I mean, it's something where it's just changed from I'm a vet tech to I'm getting to help save other lives and then do the transport program that we have and do the special needs fostering and then the spay neuter project. So it's kind of all encompassing now.
That's amazing. And I can only imagine how much the spay and neuter has taken off in the past, especially like the past 6 months or so. Because I just know, from everything we've heard, everything in the veterinary industry and rescue, of course, like everything's been so impacted because there are limitations on how many animals can even be in a facility at a time.
Absolutely. And especially for us, our clinic launched like 2 months before COVID. And then as COVID started to hit is when we went full time with the clinic. So it was very interesting, but we were able to work with a lot of the distributors and partner organizations that we work with and kind of navigate it literally day by day, week by week. So
it just sounds like fate led you to that place. Because can you imagine if they didn't have you as a resource? That's incredible. How has everything else been going on since COVID? As far as the rescue is concerned, has everything been going really well? Or have there been maybe some, we've heard that there maybe have been, some challenges or creative obstacles.
We had to get creative. We're doing a transport program called Operation Relocation. Jeremy and I actually in August did a drive from Austin, Texas up to Virginia and Pennsylvania. And we transported 23 dogs up there to safety. And so they went to 5 different receiving rescues. And it was amazing to see too, because we got to see the updates from the rescues of them getting adopted out. But definitely the journey there was a lot different than what it normally is, taking precautions with COVID, taking the handoff precautions with the other rescues and being able to facilitate that. The other big impact that we've seen is a lot of owners reaching out for assistance because they either don't have the monetary means to provide for their pets medical care due to loss of jobs and income, or just loss of resources overall to be able to feed them and such like that. So we've definitely been doing as much as we can with supportive care and coming up with some really creative ways to transport them, to assist these owners with their needs, and also try to, at the same time, keep what's best in mind for the pet medically with some of the medical cases that were overextended families that, they were just like, we really can't take this on. We don't have the time or the means to. Shrimp being one of them, actually.
That's so sweet. No, and I can only imagine, going back to like what you said about like Katrina, like it's hard enough in the easiest of circumstances to like find like a good apartment if you're moving that'll accept you with any sort of animal, depending on size and different things like that. It gets more difficult. So I can only imagine like how hard it is for these people to have to decide like, well, I need somewhere for my family to go. I need to be able to feed my family. So that's amazing that you guys have been able to step in like that. That's incredible.
As an organization, it's kind of our mission has evolved for the last 10 years. And so it's been a very fast but steady evolving of, we started out as canine cancer. We went to traditional rescue where we would just pull animals from the local shelter. We would place them into foster care, look for a home, and kind of adopt them out locally. And then from there, we just quickly realized that going into a shelter, we would pull one animal, and then that same day, 10 or 15 animals were being intaked. And so for us, it wasn't enough. We wanted to do more. And so we then started introducing the transport program where we transport through a network of cross-country partners. We've transported to Washington, Virginia, Oregon, Pennsylvania, all over, pretty much the Northwest, the Northeast, as well as kind of just the North Midwest. And so then we were doing large-scale volume transports of 25 to 30 animals at a time, every couple of weeks, transporting animals. And then we started realizing that we were still reacting to the problem. And so these animals were at the shelter and we were saving them once they hit the shelter. So we kind of, a couple of years ago, just completely took a step back and looked at why are these animals entering the shelter? And we've taken a completely proactive approach, and we've launched a low-cost spay and neuter clinic. We're working on opening a low-cost and free food pantry for qualifying residents. And so we want to provide people with the programs and resources needed to be responsible pet parents. Everyone loves animals and they want what's best for them, but sometimes just due to the physical means of it, they're unable to do that. And so that's where we want to prevent animals from entering the shelter. And then we also want to be there when animals do need us once they've entered the shelter environment. So,
and kind of going back to is it transportation operation?
Operation Relocation. Yeah.
I love that because a few of the rescues I work with are in New York, Florida, and whatnot, and they'll see an animal in California or cross country, and they have the means to help them, but they have no idea how to transport them over. So the fact that you guys are sort of facilitating that networking, I love that because locally, you may not be able to intake that animal, but across country, there is somebody who's able to take care of them and who's able to provide them with the care that they need. So I think I love that sort of connection. I think that's absolutely ideal as far as animal welfare goes. Clap, clap. I love that so much.
One of the funnest parts of that particular program too, the Operation Relocation program, is that some of these families that would like to foster a dog, they can't commit to a 3 to 6 month period where they may be able to hold on to a pet when they get pulled from the shelter. If they have some type of special needs, is they can commit to maybe 2 weeks while we wait for everybody to get their health certificates, fully vaccinated, their spay and neuter, and then move up to those rescues that are ready to receive them. And it's amazing the demand for animals in the northern states that we don't have in the southern states. And there's a lot of different factors that factor into it. But it's great because we can say, hey, we have this temporary foster program where you take a dog for a week or two and then you get to say goodbye. And it's a little heart-wrenching when they put them on the van. But at the same time, typically it's been me or Jeremy driving that van. So they know that they're in good, safe hands. And then they know that we've vetted all of the receiving organizations. And then we get there and we take these cute little pictures on the road trips and we send them back. And so everybody kind of gets this really great feeling. We get to maximize the amount of lives that we save with that. And it really is. It's heartwarming to have the opportunity to let somebody foster short-term rather than long-term if they can't commit to that too.
Absolutely. I mean, I know when I filled out foster applications, like you almost feel guilty up to a certain point if they like tell you like you need to be able to commit to 3 months at least or something like that. And you're like, well, like sometimes, especially like I started during COVID and I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to go on. Little did I know. So that's amazing that you're meeting people at that level and saying like, hey, whatever you can contribute, that's amazing. Because even some of the rescues I've worked with, sometimes they're like looking at me and they're like, well, you said you could take 3 kittens. Could you maybe take 4? What about 5? And I'm just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I can imagine it can be really stressful for some fosters. And they're like, never mind. You know what? This is too much. So that's amazing that you're meeting people at that level.
It's been an interesting program to do. And then, you do have those cases where the families get really attached. And I think one of our biggest things that we come up against or that we hear the most in rescue is from outside people who haven't done it before. Like, I could never foster. I don't know. I could never give them up. It is very hard to say goodbye sometimes, but I don't really look at it as saying goodbye. And I've kind of told our newer fosters this. I'm like, look at it as kind of saying like, we'll see you soon. Because when you get to look on Instagram and Facebook and all these social media platforms and then see these updates of them with a new home, running in a field and out with the kids and snuggling in bed, I mean, it's so heartwarming and it's so fulfilling. And I think when I look at it, they come into our home and I know that I foster fail every now and then. And I know kind of when they come in like, oh, you're a really happy, healthy puppy. Like, I know that my calling in my home is for old, decrepit, eyeless, toothless little friends. My heart kind of approaches it in a way of, I know that you're going to bring the joy that my dogs have brought into my life into somebody else's life. And being able to gift that to a family is absolutely amazing. In fact, this morning I saw one of the dogs that we transported in August. He got a home up in Virginia and he has one eye and his name is Lucky Mike. And it's this gorgeous picture of him running on this huge field that they have on the property and then him with the kids and just this big grin on his face. And I can remember seeing him in the shelter with just this sad, cowering little shaking guy in the corner. And I mean, the transformation is amazing. And his fosters were like, once they saw that, they were just totally on board to do more.
I know, that's what I used to tell myself too. I would look at all my little fosters and I'd say like, well, if I can't find anyone that's good enough, I'll keep you all. That's fine. And then these amazing applications come in and you're like, well, darn it. These people are great. So it makes it a little easier when you're like, okay, like you can adopt this animal and you can also adopt me maybe. Like that would be okay.
I kind of preface to any of my adopters, I'm like, look, you're not just getting the dog, you're getting a whole extension of the family. And so we also tell them, like, if you guys are going out of town and you don't have somebody to watch them, message us. If we're in town, we don't mind having them back. And so you get to you get that fun, like, auntie feeling without all the dedication of having to have them.
I look at some of my friends' pets too, and I like kind of don't care about their pet pictures. But like when my like adopters send me pictures, I'm like so excited, like totally auntie feeling. Like it's so great. Yeah, no, that what a wonderful program, and that what a great way to approach like that holistic approach to all of this. I mean, just meeting people like who don't want to give up their animals too, and following the whole process so that no matter where an animal comes in, they're taken care of. That's incredible.
I think one of the biggest things too that we've learned with the community outreach programs is people want to do right by their pets. They care about them, they love them deeply, but sometimes they just haven't had the background and the education in knowing about heartworm prevention, about high quality food, about what to feed, what vaccines they need. And so rather than take the stance of you're not doing right by your pet, we take the stance of, oh, well, there's this, and this that can help you guys to make sure that they're healthy, to make sure that you don't have extensive vet bills. And so we educate them and enable them to be able to go on and educate their children and then family members and friends. So we've seen a lot of people that have come in through the spay neuter clinic that maybe just wanted a rabies vaccine or just wanted a heartworm prevention pill. And then we've talked to them about other services, and they've ended up getting the pet spayed or neutered, and then they refer their cousin or their family member. And so, I mean, there's one family in particular that I can think of right off that they came in with one female pit bull who had 7 litters. And from that, they had not only given the puppies to friends, but family members. And so now we've officially seen 3 other family members of theirs, and we've fixed, I think it's now 9 of their dogs, which are no longer reproducing pit bull puppies. And that's one of the biggest needs that we see in Texas, especially, is pit bulls and shelters. And so we're entering in on that ground level of, hey, these are things that will make them healthier. And then they're receptive to it. They just weren't ever educated on it by anybody.
Definitely. I know. I feel like I've heard so many people say, like, with spay and neuter, like, I don't want to take away that freedom of their ability to reproduce. And then when you get into the information though, and you're just like, oh no, you're actually risking the health of your pet. Like, it's not making them more fulfilled as an individual. It's actually risking a lot. More than just, of course, like population wise of animals reproducing too. It's especially like in females. I know at Cuddly, we've seen so many females who are
with like pyometra or mammary tumors or mastitis or things like that.
We've addressed a lot of pyometra issues with our low-cost spay neuter clinic. And it's hard too, I think, for the owners because they don't realize that that type of an infection of a uterus can cost at a regular clinic somewhere between $900 to $3,000, depending upon if you're at an emergency facility or not. Whereas a $95 spay or neuter package that we provide is the easiest fix and the quickest and the healthiest for them. And so we've done quite a few pyometra dogs and cats, surprisingly enough, through the clinic, and the owners had no clue. Maybe 1 or 2, we knew going into it, it was an emergency surgery that they came in with the dog, and they just didn't know what to do, and they were really sick. And so after discussing everything with the doctor and discussing that the option for them was either have the dog euthanized or turn it over to a shelter or proceed with the emergency surgery and hope for the best. And we've been really lucky, and all of those emergency cases have made it through surgery amazingly and come back for their recheck appointments. And the owners were really stringent about giving their antibiotics and keeping their e-collar on, so they made it through really well, and they're extremely happy. And going forward, we've seen some of the family members to those dogs, maybe their puppies or their siblings.
incredible. That's so wonderful. So Jeremy, do you also have fosters at home, or are you? I imagine it's hard to avoid.
And I do. I typically end up with the longer stay foster dogs. So if they're medically challenged, behaviorally challenged, things like that. So I have a senior foster right now. Her name's Alaska. She's a husky. We actually had taken in a pet, and unfortunately it didn't work out with the family, so they needed to return him. And with him, Max, it was a German Shepherd. They also had Alaska, which was the husky. She's about 10, 11 years old. And she had a softball-sized soft tissue sarcoma on her leg. And so we ended up going through the surgery. She's been with me for over a year now. She has a lot of feelings about other dogs and about people. And she's kind of a special case. But I mean, kind of right now, she's hospice with me. Hospice is what we say. And so she's kind of with me until, unfortunately, either she passes or if she does find a home. But I typically end up with more behaviorally challenged dogs, and Kiki takes care of the medical ones.
Well, I mean, for both of you, I mean, is this, I hate phrasing it this way, but like your full-time job, or do you have other things you do as well? Of course, it's your full-time job, but
we have a very small team of paid staff members. We rely heavily on volunteers. And so we say that we're volunteer driven. But yes, there are a handful of us that are paid. For Kiki and I, this is our full-time position. And so we kind of steer the organization in the direction that it needs to go. And we kind of empower all of our volunteers and supporters to be able to kind of help us grow the organization and bring programs to the people that truly need it. And that's a lot of what we do now is we kind of, with rescue, with animal welfare in general, we kind of define ourselves as an animal welfare organization. Not only do we do rescue, but kind of do the reactive, proactive approach with rescuing animals, adopting them out, transporting them. And then the complete 50% of what we do now is community-based and just keeping animals in their home, providing people with the resources that they need. We just kind of, we do a little bit of everything, but for us, this is our full-time position. So
yeah, I mean, and it seems like you're just so clear on what your focus is and what your mission is here. I can imagine it being your whole focus is really helpful there, having that bandwidth and being able to make sure you have a really, like we've talked a lot about animal rescues and welfare organizations running kind of as a business and how helpful it can be so that you don't overextend yourself and you don't take in more animals than you can actually care for and you can actually enact larger projects because of it.
We've been there. I mean, Kiki and I have both been there where we're up till 3-4 o'clock in the morning trying to do everything by ourselves and just we want to do so much in such a little amount of time. And it's not possible. The same community that we help and provide programs and resources to is the same community that we rely on to be able to do what we do.
Yeah, I started out on a volunteer basis, just kind of helping out as I could past the fostering, but also with the administrative side and the needs for the spay neuter clinic. And when we initially discussed the campaign, we said, oh, well, once a month we can do this on a Saturday. I had 2 other jobs, a part-time and a full-time job in addition to volunteering. And then I quickly realized, as well as Jeremy did, the need for the spay neuter clinic in the area that we serve currently was just so overwhelming. And so we ended up switching to twice a month. And then from twice a month, it became twice a week. And so quickly, I was personally overextending myself working as a volunteer plus a full-time job plus a part-time job. And so I slowly scaled back into just one full-time job plus doing the volunteer method. And then we started working up into, okay, this needs to be a paid position. We need to find funding and donor relations to facilitate that because I wasn't able to dedicate the amount of time and the amount of attention that it really, truly should get and deserve in order to ramp up the program and be able to do 2 days a week. I've scaled back at my other job and I'm 1 day a week there because it's a vet clinic that we work with closely too for our rescue animals. And then other than that, 6 days a week, my phone is ringing off the hook or I'm in surgery with the spay neuter clinic. So it's been a transition, but I feel like just my soul in general is so much happier doing this than just an everyday job where I'm clocking in and clocking out.
Totally. I mean, I feel like you can sense that about both of them, right, Sid? Like, it feels like you just have like this amazing drive and energy because you're like, oh my gosh, what we do is so important. And it is. And you're so excited about it.
It's an ever evolving thing to be day by day. We have to adapt to other situations that are popping up and new challenges that we're seeing. And it's actually, I think it's kind of fun in that way too, because it's always challenging you to just be better and do better.
Right. It's nothing consistent. It's not always routine. It's not always structured. That's what makes it a little fun. Like the versatility of it. Like you can always, of course, there are going to be surprises and unexpected things that aren't the funnest to deal with. But I think like you're right, having almost like that roller coaster feeling in a job is a little bit exciting. It keeps it fun. It keeps it active. It keeps you learning. It keeps you adapting. I like it.
Every single day is a new day for us. And we think the day before was like, had topped it. And the new day comes and it's nope.
So tell us a little bit about some of the animals in your care then, because I know so many of them have such big stories that led them to where they are now. I mean, you can imagine will lead them to somewhere amazing in the future. Who are you currently caring for and who needs help?
Jeremy has Alaska, who's our long hospice stay right now. We do have 2 other long stay dogs. Nate has been with the rescue for almost 5 years. He's a all white pit bull. He came in, severely emaciated, injured. He has major, major skin allergies, and we found an amazing foster who has kept him for those 5 years. She's I mean, she does wonders for him and she really loves him. She's an amazing foster that we've utilized before for extreme medical cases with allergy issues, also extreme behavioral cases. He's very particular about the dogs that he wants to live with and the ones that he wants to play with. And he's also very particular about people. We definitely believe that he did not have the best beginning as far as how people treated him. He hasn't quite found the perfect match, but he loves his foster mom and she loves him. So she is totally dedicated for him to stay as long as he needs. We have another one, Lucille, who again is a longer stay. She has almost no hair on her body. She's regrown as much as she can, but she was in pretty bad shape when we got her. She's been with us for 4 years. I think it's going on 4 years. We're just shy right now. And she has immune issues as well. So that's a pretty big medical case for somebody to take on adoption-wise, which we haven't found the right match for her yet. We've got little baby Shrimp here. She's 7 weeks old this week, and we're still kind of trying to manage that eye that she's got that's injured. But they do anticipate that we'll have to remove the eye when she's old enough, but that won't be until she's about 3 to 4 months old, just depending upon her weight class for anesthesia. We have Turnip, who's a little kitten. She's a 3-legger. She's actually on the cuddly page too for us. So she entered the shelter. She had an injured rear left leg. It was wrapped in a bandage of some sort, but it was broken and the bone was sticking out. And so we had to medically manage that wound for about 3 months before she could undergo surgery. She's going to be spayed next week, and then past her getting spayed, she can go home. She's a cute little tripod. She's running around here somewhere. If I can snag her, I'll fit. And then we have 3 11-day-old puppies right now. Unfortunately, their mother wasn't producing milk, and the family just doesn't have the resources and doesn't understand or is able to provide the care that they need supportively, because pretty much they need to be fed every 2 hours. Currently, those 3 puppies are split between 2 fosters. I have the most critical one who may have aspiration pneumonia that we're dealing with right now. And then the other 2 puppies are with a good friend of mine. And so they'll go up for adoption probably in about 2.5 months when they're actually fully vetted. We have another little guy, Turtle, who came up to us last week. He entered the shelter and he was in critical condition. So he had been attacked. They believe that he's been attacked by a larger animal. He has multiple wounds over his face and his neck. His eye was hanging out. I don't want to be too graphic about it, but it was pretty rough. He had to have emergency surgery to remove the eye. And then he had to have a second surgery yesterday for some complications with that area that had already kind of had a really bad infection that had set in. So we're addressing that now. He's at my house because he's got a drain tube in his eye and it is not pretty whatsoever. And fosters get a little freaked out by that one. We have Arkham, who is a really cute little black kitten. She had a degloving injury. Pretty much a lot of the muscle had come off of her leg, and she was brought in through our community cat spay neuter program. She was only 4 months old and she's very, very sweet, very friendly. So while she was under anesthesia, we cleaned up the wound. The trapper said that they did notice that she was limping and that they were concerned that she had the injury. And so once we got her into anesthesia, we were able to better assess what was going on. And she had tendon exposure. So we did provide medical care for that. And she's actually recovered and she's hanging out at Jeremy's house in his bathroom right now, awaiting either a longer term foster or an adopter. There's Elby, who is a little black lab. He was saved down from close to Corpus, I believe it was. And he is about 7-8 months old now. He's been with us for approximately 2 months. He's in foster care. Stevie just got adopted by her foster actually this morning. This cute little puppy that actually came in with Elby. Her ears are ginormous. They're about as big as her face. We were talking to her foster about potentially putting her on the next transport to go north. And she's like, I just can't live without her.
Yeah, and quite a range too of like long-term and those that are like, all right, I'm just waiting to meet that special someone.
A lot of medicals right now.
And it's an ever-evolving door. One leaves and then the next one comes in. So give us a couple of days and we'll have updates for more. So.
And I wanted to ask, so you said you do have a lot of medicals right now. Are you seeing like an influx of more medical cases showing up? Like more so than you would have perhaps, I don't know, last year at this time or, last season or things like that?
I think that most of our connections with other rescues, with other people in the community, and also with some of the shelters that we work with regularly, they know that we do a lot of the medical cases, that we're willing to take them on. and that we'll maximize the amount of care that they get in any way that we can. And so we do get a lot of requests to take in medical cases just because they know that we're there for that. I mean, they do approach us about other cases as well, but it does seem like lately there's been more. I know that in the veterinary industry itself right now, there are an influx of medical issues, and more or less it's partially because owners are home more right now. And so they're seeing and noticing things with their pets. And so they're bringing them in to get them treated. The other thing that we're seeing too is a lot of more dogs hit by cars, as well as snake bites. And just in the area that we're in, people are taking the dogs out more to the green belt, taking them out on walks. And then, of course, those injuries kind of go with the influx of being out more and doing more things.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you said about education too, like I feel like if I had moved to Texas or something, I would be like so out of my element. It's like, I don't know anything about ticks. Like, I don't know about so much. Just when you go from place to place, I mean, even saying snake bites, I mean, I'm sure we have a ton of snakes in California, but they're like more in the hills and we're kind of more towards the beach area. So there seems to be like just such a need there, because I can only imagine like new pet owners who don't know these like different elements to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, heartworm disease happens to be one of probably our most prevalent issues with a lot of the rescues that we do save. And it's because it's transferred by mosquitoes. So in the southern states, especially where we're at, there are millions of mosquitoes. And so a lot of people think, well, if my dog's inside, then it doesn't need to be on heartworm prevention because they're not exposed to mosquitoes. We talk to owners and you have that discussion, well, they go outside to potty and it only takes one to bite them and infect them. And then also, I mean, I know I come inside my house and just from coming in and out, I constantly get mosquito bites. It's absolutely annoying. A heartworm prevention pill, depending upon what type of preventative they need, whether it's a combination of flea, tick, and a heartworm prevention or just heartworm prevention itself, can range anywhere from about $4 to $20 per month. But when you're looking at the long-term effects of heartworm disease, if they become heartworm positive, the treatment at a vet around here usually runs somewhere between $800 to $1,200 or $1,300. And so that's a huge financial burden for a lot of these people. And sometimes they'll opt to relinquish the animal rather than treat them or leave them untreated, which leaving them untreated then results in heart failure and other heart issues too. It's hard, but it's definitely a conversation that we're having more often now with owners, and they're more receptive to it. And once you give them that information, then they're very like, okay, well, let's do it.
Absolutely. I know when you have the information, it feels like a no-brainer. But before that, you're like, well, there's no risk. And it's like, no.
I feel more comfortable with that approach too, because I know when I lived in Louisiana when I was 19, right before the hurricane, I got my first dog ever. I adopted her at a shelter and she was 5 months old, and I didn't plan on getting a dog. My girlfriend asked me to go with her to find her a dog. And this poor little puppy was just sitting in the kennel and she had a red card on her. And I asked them, well, what's that mean? And they said, oh, she's going to get euthanized. She's been here 2 weeks and nobody's shown interest in her. And I'm just like, you're just going to put her down? And they're like, well, we have to make space. And so I tried to talk my girlfriend into her and she's like, no, I don't like the way she looks. She's not really my type. And so it was a whole thing. Long story short, I ended up adopting her and I got her out of there, which I was super thankful for. But she was my first dog as an adult that I had ever taken care of. And I knew growing up we had pets, but my dad always kind of managed their medical. So I brought her to the vet because I knew I should bring her to the vet. And they gave her a shot and a pill and they said, we'll see you in 3 weeks. And I brought her back and they said the same thing. And then I brought her back the third time and they're like, all right, we'll see you in a year. She wasn't microchipped. She wasn't on monthly heartworm prevention. I didn't know what the tablet was that they gave her. I just thought that I was giving her what I needed to. I asked about food. I'm like, what should I be feeding her? And he's like, oh, puppy food, whatever she'll eat, whatever she likes. And I was like, all right. And then I moved to Texas and I started working with a bunch of veterinary technicians. And one of the girls was complaining about how her dog didn't want to eat the food that she was feeding it. And she was having such a hard time finding something that he liked. And I was like, oh, my dog loves her food. And I'm like, oh, what are you feeding? And I was like, oh, Old Roy. I mean, they just like laid into me. And I'm like, nobody ever told me that it's, it's a cheaper dog food and it's good to feed something dog food wise. It's better than feeding table scraps, but it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value for them. And so as soon as I knew, I was like, well, I'll go home tonight and buy her something new. And they made a recommendation and I got it for her. And then, we found out they were talking about microchips. And I'm like, oh, it's a microchip. She's a runner. And so she always had a tag with a collar on, but if she ever lost that tag, I would have been up the creek. So it was, for me, it was definitely an experience of building on just being informed. And so that's kind of where the approach that I've always tried to take with owners when we're discussing medical care. And I think that a lot of people are more receptive to it rather than just a finger point of you're not doing the right thing.
I like the whole point of informative because some people don't even know what questions to ask. How am I supposed to know even what heartworm is unless, someone happens to let me know. So I like that idea of informing them rather than waiting for them to ask the question because that doesn't always happen. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, heartworm disease is a big one, especially for people that are moving from the north to the southern states, because in the northern states, they really don't have a heartworm problem at all. It was very interesting to me, the first owner that I came in contact with, and they were like, no, my dog's not on heartworm prevention. I was like, oh, okay, well, we should discuss that. And they're like, oh, I've lived in Massachusetts my entire life, and we've never had to do that.
So much information that is coming out more lately. And so it's great to see, but also you're just like, okay, what else don't I know? And even like navigating dog food is a whole other thing.
So overwhelming. I know as a technician, like I even have friends, Jeremy's one of them. He used to work for Tomlinson's, who's a local pet store here, that they're extremely versed on their nutrition and the foods that they carry. I'll go to him and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this brand? Or what do you think about this for this dog? And he's like, oh no, we should do this instead. It's a very wide range of things that you have to take into account for each pet. And every recommendation can be a little bit different depending upon the actual animal themselves.
Such a good point too, because I feel like some people are like, well, this is good quality food. Why isn't my pet eating it? Or why is my dog responding badly to it and having stomach problems? And it's like, well, they're not all created equally. So that's such a good point.
Yeah, we on average have, so in my house currently, we're feeding 7 different diets to each of the dogs. And I have one dog with IBD. You'd never know that canines could get irritable bowel disease. I mean, it's that much of a thing. It is. I think that's the other astounding thing is that there's a lot of conditions that humans have that dogs and cats can get. And just people don't anticipate that or understand it.
We have to mention, because we want to include it when we put the post up, Captain America.
We were talking about Captain America. I was telling her about when we met you guys at Best Friends last year and you brought him and we were taking all these photos and he was like the star of the show. That was like our favorite part.
That dog has a special piece of my heart. He lives about 10 blocks from me. And I was messaging with his owners the other day. He was a very, very hard one to adopt out. Like, even though he had his issues, we had discussed kind of building our home dynamic around him at one point because I was so much in love with him. But I swear, it's like a fairy tale book that you wrote for that dog. He has the absolute most adorable little girl that is just his everything. His mom and dad have alternating schedules to work from home, and he goes to work with his dad too on certain days. But they have they've really tailored their life and their home to be with him, and they understand his little nuances. And it's so cute because they'll take him out to eateries and different trailer parks and stuff like that in the area because it's such a common thing in Austin. And the little girl just keeps her eye out, and she knows that he can be a little bit overly sensitive to other dogs. So as soon as she sees another dog kind of approaching, she'll run up and she's like, oh, he's so cute, put me in. My dog is a little bit overly sensitive to feelings and other dogs. Could you just kind of keep him that way? Thank you so much. It makes me tear up when I see their posts, and then when I talk to them, and it's just, they're the sweetest people alive. They really, he isn't exactly where he needs to be. I couldn't have dreamed up a better home for him.
Wonderful experience for that little girl too, to grow up learning to speak to other people that way, to inform other people that way, to take care of a dog who's, not necessarily the easiest at times, who can be sensitive to different environments and people. What a great experience. I almost wish I grew up with an animal like that. I feel like that teaches you so many lessons. You do learn it later, of course, when you're in the animal welfare industry, inevitably. I'm just so happy that she gets to experience that at such a young age. And that has to be so educational for her.
I think it really is. The parents are amazing at the way that they communicate with her overall. Like when I met them for the first time, they speak to her as she's an adult so that she has the same interactions with everybody. And she's just so respectful and so receptive to everything. And I mean, they take him out to her soccer games too. And so apparently, like, the entire team gets super excited when they see him. And apparently they had a discussion with the entire soccer team and all of the parents before they brought him out there, just to make sure that they were aware, like, please give him his space. None of the kids want to run up and, get in his face or anything. And they're all on board with it. And it's great. I mean, it's so cute.
I love that they live so close to you too. I'm going to go peek over. I feel like I would do that so much.
They found out that I think it was a few days before my birthday is when we actually finalized all the paperwork and everything for his adoption. And then they threw this big party when we brought him over to their house. And I mean, the dad is like an amazing chef. He went all out and he cooked this huge smorgasbord of food for us. And then he even made special food for him too. And he made like a little doggy cake. It was so cute. It was really great. They're amazing. I can't rave about them enough as a family.
Well, so we have some kind of fun questions. Not that this hasn't been fun. This has been very fun. So they're kind of based around like personal pets, but they can apply to fosters too. You can pick and choose how you feel. What is the one trick a dog has taught you? Or I don't know if we should say trick or like, what is something a dog has taught you?
My personal dog is deaf. And so she's very like overly sensitive to other senses. And so it's just kind of weird to see like her react to certain situations and things like that. And so in situations where we kind of take advantage of, we have all 5 senses. For her, she's only got 4. It's interesting. I've learned a lot just kind of seeing how she handles certain situations and the way that she reacts to them. So
I think body language for me. Body language is huge with canines and felines too. But I think it's hilarious because my husband hates going to the dog park with me now. Whenever we go out, I'm like, that dog is not happy. But I think definitely a lot of the fostering and then even my own personal dogs, body language is big. It's made me pick up on a lot of things that I think sometimes we overlook or we just think are like cute nuances that they do when it really does mean more. And it can, if you look close enough, you can kind of be like, oh, no, hold on. Or you can really tell that they're happy by certain circumstances. You have to pee. That's what your body language is saying. I'm starting to get squirmy when she does that. She usually has to go pretty soon.
If your dog was president, what would be the first thing they did?
I think Shrimp would get everybody tacos.
Shrimp is like the size of a taco. So I feel like...
She's like a street taco.
What about you, Jeremy?
I only have one personal pet, and she's pretty chill. She hangs out around the house most of the time. Husky keeps me on my toes pretty often. So I would say that if it were the Husky, the Alaska, if she were president, the first thing she would do would be to, I don't know. She's very vocal. She's a Husky. Probably like put a ban on nail trimming. So that's like the one thing that she hates the most.
I feel like that's a Husky thing. Sam, my sister who you guys work with, she has a Husky who hates nail trims. She gets so vocal. So I feel like that's such a good one to say.
Okay, well, this one is a little bit harder. But so if you had to pick one life motto, what would it be?
Live like somebody left the gate open.
That's so sweet.
I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, every day is a new day.
I mean, I love you guys. Your approach to all of this is just, you're like, we're just getting started. So it's really going to be exciting to see everything that you do, like moving forward, because I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Right now, I mean, is there anything like you need? Are you like, we need fosterers or we need this or that? Is there one standout?
We have a transport coming up, so leaving October 17th. And so we can always use fosters. The more fosters we have lined up to do that temporary 2 to 3 week fostering, the more animals we can save. We can get health certificates, get them fully vetted, and get them on board and sent up to a rescue up north. Fosters are definitely our biggest need always. The more fosters we have, the more animals we can save.
This sounds so cute too. It's like a little doggy road trip. I just picture them with like little mile markers or something like, hey.
It's an adventure. So they all got puppuccinos on the last transport. So we stopped at Starbucks and Kiki, I said it as a joke because Kiki and I were driving it. And I was like, oh, we should ask them if they can fill like 26 puppuccinos. And she asked and they were like, we'll deliver. So they brought out 26 puppuccinos for each dog that was on the transport. We took photos and did a whole little promotion thing on it.
I'm sure it was the highlight of that barista's day. They're like, heck yeah.
We did keep in mind that when we went, it was 8:30 at night. And so it was late, and we made sure, like, as we were driving up, we looked behind us and there was nobody else in line. And I'm like, I'm not going to do this to them if we're going to mess up their day. But it was really cute. Each one of them took turns. They came out in like droves of 2 for employees, and they took pictures with all the puppies and they said hi to everybody. And it was really, really adorable. We didn't expect it to actually happen. It was totally just a joke that he said after our order. And I was like, you think I won't do it?
Right. That had to make that barista's day too, or those baristas' days. Like, oh, what a great end of the night.
It was really funny because we posted it on TikTok and I asked them if we could, and they said yes. And it turns out that 2 of the baristas were famous on TikTok already. And so everybody started tagging them in it and like, hey, is that you? Hey, is that you? And then one of the girls actually started a TikTok account just so that she could see it, and then messaged me. And so we've been in contact, and I sent them like a thank you letter, and it just made our day. It was really great because they didn't have to do that at all, but it was adorable. All of the fosters that were in Texas, all of the receiving organizations that we were going to were super excited about it too. They thought it was the cutest thing. And we kept in mind that we only gave everybody about a quarter of the cup of whipped cream so that nobody had diarrhea.
Thank you both so much. This has been so much fun and so informative. We're so excited that we've gotten to work with you thus far, and excited to see how all your transports and the spay and neuter clinic and everything evolve moving forward. It's a great time. I mean, I feel like watching you has been a great time.
We've had a blast with it. Thank you guys so much too for everything. The support from Cuddly has been amazing. I mean, a lot of these cases we could not have provided for without the help of the donors and the organization. We're reaching platforms that we would not have reached before to help us with resources. So that's amazing too.
Yeah, I always love working with you guys. Thank you.
Well, have a great rest of your day.
We absolutely love talking to Kiki and Jeremy today about all of the beautiful things they're doing over in Texas at Save an Angel organization. Hearing about their educational practices, how they're teaching owners responsible pet ownership and trying to change the community. Talking about their transportation services and their networking. It's all so wonderful. If you do want to learn more about this organization or perhaps foster for them as they need, go ahead and check our blog. Our pets can't speak, but we often speak for them. Rescue pets often come into our lives and our families without a full background or an in-depth story of where they came from. We don't really know what happened to them before our lives crossed. Based on what we learn about our pets, we tend to create stories about what we think happened. Though we can't be sure these stories are correct, they help connect us as humans with our pets. Sometimes these stories are happy or funny. Other times they might be sad or hard to stomach. But we know that every story is a story of resilience, survival, strength, and love in the end. Join all pet voices in Cuddly to share stories of your pets and their history from before you adopted them by posting on social media with the hashtag #MyUnspokenPet.
Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe. You can also follow us on social media at We Love Cuddly. That's CUDDLY. Thanks.